Hey, what's going on, guys? PewDiePie here. No, I'm kidding. Hi, guys. This is Dank Swank. It's Mr. G with Mr. J. And today we are going to be discussing the hotly anticipated and critically acclaimed 8th entry into the Resident Evil series, Village.
Resident
And,
Evil Village.
And its various... because you played it. You've actually gone through and played the whole thing from start to finish.
Yep.
You know, you've seen everything. You get to spank Lady D, and all of her daughters and everything. So, just to give us a lowdown. What did you think of it?
I actually liked it quite a bit. I thought it was, way better than I was expecting. Because, I don't know, I guess at first I thought it was going to be, lacking in terms of content, or just since it was taking such a different direction, and since I heard it was supposed to just be like a rehash of Resident Evil Revelations 3, which they were which was the title of this game before it got turned into Village. I was a little unsure coming in as to how they would handle that, and just because of how different the setting was. Well, I mean, it's not like super different. It's kind of reminiscent to Resident Evil 4, but the way they were incorporating the fantasy setting, and the different elements like the lichens and the supposed witches and the vampire features of Lady Dimitrescu, or whatever, however you say it.
Lady Dominatrix, I think that's what we've settled on for it.
Yeah, basically.
But the big vampire mommy.
Yeah. So taking all that into consideration, I thought it was gonna be just super out of nowhere, and not even a real Resident Evil game, but it actually surprised me quite a bit. I thought it was actually really good. The thing about
you didn't expect it to be like Resident Evil 6 bad, though, when you were initially.
Oh, definitely not. I knew they were going for a more action-y angle, but I'm just really surprised that they were able to really have it be pretty self-contained, and it wasn't super bombastic for most of the game, at least, up until the end, where it just goes completely Call of Duty, and I don't know, it just becomes like a mecha game at some point, which is kind of insane. But
I mean, this would be a good time to mention, for anybody who's watching, who this is going to involve some spoilers of going through this of late game content and everything, and how it concludes, and plot threads, how they ultimately come to an end and whatnot. Just letting you guys know. Sorry, I don't know. I figure we should say that before we get into it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's definitely spoiler warning for anyone listening in. Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna be discussing pretty much everything in the game.
Yeah, Darth Vader is your father, and he throws the ring into Mordor or whatever. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad to hear that. I was, because admittedly, you look at some of it, and it's for Resident Evil fans, it seems fairly normal for there to be a 10-foot tall lady who's plaster white and dressed like she's about to take a first class ticket to the Titanic,
Oh yeah, definitely.
But to outsiders, they were probably looking as I don't know. But then they were also thinking, oh, she's so hot.
Oh yeah.
That's been the whole mark thing around the game. It's just Capcom wanted her to be so scary, and they're just everybody's just oh my gosh, just, step on my crotch and, spank me.
Slice me up. And call me daddy or something, I don't know.
Yeah, quarantine has messed us all up. We are down astronomically, even if they're 4 feet taller than us.
Oh yeah.
Minimum. All right. Yeah, so anyway, I'm jumping ahead though. We'll have plenty of time to talk about her later. What was so you really liked it. What specifically, because you're mentioning lichens and stuff. The different enemies, the we're not actually werewolves, we're actually lichens,
Yeah, it's weird because they're called lichens in the game, but they're nothing like lichens, I guess. They just kind of, I don't know, they don't even look like werewolves. They're basically just zombie. I could tell intelligent zombies that have a lot of combat capabilities with using weapons and whatnot, but they're pretty much just like smart zombies essentially. That can just
I mean,
like they act.
yeah.
They can use weapons. They, attack in packs and herds and stuff, and they are under the thumb of Lady Miranda, of course, and what's his face, Heisenberg.
Rob Zombie.
Yeah, Mr. Rob Zombie himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like they're interesting though. They're pretty tough enemies even in like normal difficulty because they just move around so much. And
yeah, the movement is really erratic. It's sort of this weird, like looking at it, I saw parallels to like what that one sort of enemy type, that one soldier enemy type from Halo, the one that sort of shifts side to side. And I also got a feeling just because of the zombie element of like in Fallout 4 how ghouls are really like they're very slow, but then all of a sudden they jump after you.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're very erratic, and on top of that, they can use weapons, which is kind of unsettling.
Yeah, they can use weapons. They can shoot like flaming arrows at you. They can throw like axes at you. They can take you down, like pounce you basically, and just like fucking just bite you, and you're pretty much screwed. And on hardcore difficulty, which is what I played the game on, like for my first playthrough, it was there. Like the first part of the game where, of course, you have to fight off against this horde of lichens and stuff. Like it was pretty hard, and you can attest to that because we were playing through that on a.
Oh yeah,
first
there were plenty of times where it was very it was very sort of against the ropes for most of it, and just sort of by the seat of your pants, I should say, getting through. Thank God for explosive barrels. That's all I'm gonna say with that. I mean, a video game staple that it's nice to see.
Conveniently placed explosive barrels that like have no real relevance otherwise. I mean, there's the lichens, of course. They're like the faster type of zombie, and then there's the slower type, which they're more like ghouls, honestly. They're kind of just like husks of like dead people that are just like reanimated by whatever. Well, it's like some sort of weird mold that is found in that village, and that they're being controlled by it. And so yeah, they're basically like there's ghouls inside of the castle in the the basement level, and they just kind of roam around, and they can use swords and weapons like to swing at you, and they bite you as well, of course, if you get too close. And
yeah, everything loves doing like weird S&M biting. I do find it though, like compared to the other like base enemies from the previous game, which were like gooey like tadpole, like sort of toothy tadpole monsters, for lack of a better term. Like they were made out of goo and squishy bits, sort of like the enemies in Suicide Squad almost, but with bigger mouths and teeth. I mean, do you prefer these to them? I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's way more variety in this game than there ever was in Resident Evil 7, because Resident Evil 7 was very like repetitive in that regard with the same enemy types, honestly, and it just got really boring after a while playing Resident Evil 7 because the enemy types are so like generic, and they just kind of, there wasn't a whole lot of variety. Whereas here in Resident Evil Village, of course, there was the lichens, the ghouls, there's even trolls and giants in this game that wield like huge axes and hammers and stuff like that. It's like something straight out of Dark Souls even.
Yeah, there were a lot of Dark Souls comparisons I've seen in we were even comparing it to Bloodborne during a fair bit of the playthrough, just seeing the way certain things transform and like the hellish abominations. There's a lot of weird sort of parallels, and I mean part of it is just the Western sort of folklore that they're leaning into with it.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, they definitely took a page out of Dark Souls playbook in terms of the enemy designs, the way they attack you and stuff, and even some of the strategies you have to employ in order for some of the boss fights. It's very Dark Souls like, where you just kind of have to time it correctly with the attacks, and you're not
no dodge rolling though. No dodge rolling.
There's no dodge rolling, but there's, quick 180 turns you can block with your seemingly indestructible hands and arms and stuff. And yeah, so
well,
there is
indestructible except for the very beginning when he gets a couple of his fingertips shanked.
Oh yeah.
Or chewed off, I guess is what it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was a really interesting way of like spicing up the gameplay in that sense, where like there's parts of the game where they're completely optional in terms of like boss encounters that to me reminds me a lot of Dark Souls, where it's just kind of like you don't really have to fight these bosses, but if you do, you get a reward for like killing them essentially. And it's in that sense it was just that just reminded me straight up of like Sekiro or Dark Souls.
Yeah. Although at the same time, if it were like to make it even more Dark Souls like, what they might do is make it so there's an enemy type out of the way that you go to thinking you're going to get something out of it, and it turns out you get nothing from it.
Oh yeah.
Like that seems like something but this game's a little more, I mean, you're still in a dire situation, and it's still very dark, but it's
Oh yeah.
it's not like it's actively going out of its way to make you suffer any more than Ethan already is throughout it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
So,
too bad.
I mean, but in terms of gameplay adjustments from Resident Evil 7, I mean, would you say that there were a large number of them, or because it seems like a lot of the gameplay is pretty much the same?
It just feels like the shooting mechanics have been way more refined, and when you move while having the gun, it feels like you're playing like a AAA first person shooter. So yeah, it definitely feels like, well, like it feels like a first person, like AAA first person shooter, but also kind of has its own like, it's not sort of clunkiness, but like stiffness to it, where, well, I guess stiffness isn't the right word. It's kind of like, it's definitely not like Call of Duty style, like first person shooter. It feels like every like shot you take is very, like there's a lot of impact to it. And,
Yeah, there's not a lot of 360 no scoping or quick scoping people
yeah.
and teabagging or anything like that. I mean, it is very deliberate, and it feels like you have to be very careful about how you aim and everything. It's not so stiff on the auto aim and the quick reload and everything.
Oh yeah, definitely. You definitely have to count your shots and make every bullet count in this game, because of course it's survival horror. So even more so in hardcore mode, where ammo is so limited, and there were so many times where I just remember myself being like, yeah, like I just needed to really make my shots count, and if I messed up my bullet count, and if I took too many shots on this one enemy and didn't have enough for this next enemy down the line, or even a boss down the line, then I was pretty much screwed. So
yeah,
I really like that aspect of the game, where they kind of really forces you to really make every shot count, and you can't just go guns blazing, or what's it called, just shoot without thinking.
Yeah, it's not like you're led to the set piece, you're locked into a box, and you're just like, fire on these minorities. Not to get political, but it seems like that's what Call of Duty does. It's just like, fire on these evil Russians or these evil, Chinese soldiers or whatever.
Yeah.
The thing is, too, like, I mean, I know we're saying it's like you can't just run and gun, but it does seem like once stuff starts going, like after the first shot, everything gets alerted, basically, and you really have to start thinking on the fly about what you're doing. Like, it's strategic, but it's still like you got to be quick on your feet about it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You have to, like, sometimes there's moments where you have to take a shot before Lycan gets too close and just grabs you and bites you. And like because of that, you kind of have to keep enemies at a distance by just making sure you're aiming at the right time, like at their head at the right time, or just making sure they're backing off.
Yeah,
because there's literally no way to, like, these Lycans are like way faster than you.
Oh yeah,
and yeah, they'll just like get up on your face literally, and just like if you don't shoot them like ahead of time, or just have enough, if you're like reloading essentially while they're getting close to you, you're screwed basically. So
Yeah.
Yeah, you just
Makes you
kinda,
glad for that parry mechanic, though. Well, I
oh
guess
yeah,
parry mechanic is, well, you know, because Ethan with his indestructible arms, he blocks it. But then, like,
oh
if you
yeah,
time it right, you can, you know, kick him
oh yeah.
back and say no means no. Or
Oh yeah, yeah. I like that feature that they added to the game where you can just push enemies back, and it really helps because a good little trick I found is that every time you block successfully and push them back, usually the when you when it brings back your gun to aim at them, it's usually already aimed at their head. So I just usually just like shoot right away, and it most likely most often just leads to a headshot.
yeah, I mean that's kind of Dark Soulsy too, where it's like, you know, parry mechanics, and whether it's Bloodborne or Dark Souls 2 or, you know, any of them, where if you time it just right, you know, you leave them open and you have an opportunity to get an easy, you know, shot in, which, you know, kind of almost incentivizes. I think what Harris Bomber guy called it was like a fast and frenetic sort of approach, but, you know, it's one where you still plan it out, but where you know, you sort of almost you can goat them into getting an opening.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which, I mean, I think that's really sick, especially for a first person game, which, you know, makes stuff more difficult in a lot of ways because you can only see one way. You know.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's hard to see around exactly who's behind you or whatnot. With that in mind, actually, I'm curious because you were saying it was going to be like a Revelations 3. Does that mean that it was originally going to be in third person? Because wasn't Revelations in third person as well?
Yeah, I think it was originally going to be third person. And
Yeah.
I think what also happened too was since they made that switch, I think a lot of the unfortunate thing about the game is that the actual like aspect of interacting with the villagers in the said village, like it's kind of almost gone. Like they're only there for that one part of the in the beginning part of the game, and then they're pretty much all killed off, which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, but I mean, it does set a tone, though. I mean, you know, in terms of like you get in there and it's like, well, you know, it's really hit the fan now, you know.
I guess so, but the thing is that like they showed like footage of, you know, the villagers kind of going about their daily lives in the first trailer, and they kind of just got rid of all that. Like for the final game where you're just kind of showing up when the whole like shebang is already like taken its like course, and whereas in terms of the like an attack on the village and stuff.
Yeah, kind of a Metal Gear Solid 2 situation, you know, in
Yeah.
terms of a bait and switch. Well, in
Pretty
that way,
much.
does that mean that Capcom really is taking over, you know, in terms of being that Japanese developer, you know, that pushes stuff, you know? Are they doing, you know, they're doing a little Kojima sort of, which means what they're doing is genius.
Oh yeah, I don't even know.
I don't know. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we're at a residence that contains evil in it, you know.
Oh yeah.
And on that subject, the level design, because, you know, there's sort of more open levels, but it's kind of circuitous sort of pathways and stuff. From what I saw, at least the initial stuff, both, you know, the mansion and the sort of downtrodden sort of village that's below it, you know, and to the side of it. What'd you think of that?
I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was handled pretty well. Like the village serves as a good hub point between all four different areas where you have the castle, that's Castle Dimitrescu up north. To the northwest, you have Donna Beneviento's mansion, or like spooky House of Terrors,
Spooky.
as you know very well, because I mean we can probably get into that
Oh
section.
yeah, we're totally going to get into it. I mean, there's a lot of spoilery stuff in there in terms of big moments, and, you know.
Yeah. But I think that part of the game was the most standout part of the game for me, because it honestly felt like they that's where all the horror elements went into the game. I mean keep in mind there is horror elements and terror, like jump scares and like well executed jump scares and whatnot throughout the game.
Yeah, it's important to mention that because some of them can be very cheap in a lot of games. So,
Oh yeah.
you know,
No, but
yeah.
all the ones here in the game were really good. They weren't like cheap or cheesy or anything like that. Or
It
like,
wasn't a Five Nights at Freddy's situation.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, Markiplier isn't going to be making as much money off this game, I don't think.
Yeah.
Oh well.
But yeah, but I'm really glad that what's it called? Yeah, Capcom decided to incorporate a lot of elements of what was supposed to be Resident Evil 4, but became Resident Evil 3.5 with the hallucinations and the dolls like attacking you and stuff. That's basically what the Beneviento section is. It's basically that.
Yeah.
It's just you're going somewhere where you're hallucinating because of the whoever owns that place because of Donna Beneviento's special powers to sort of influence your subconscious and just cause you to see things that aren't there and stuff, and kind of.
Or are they? Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah,
are they?
It was just a lot of really good psychological horror elements in this part, especially the whole like throwback with just like the PT vibes going that just permeate throughout the entire mansion. And
yeah, I mean that one is a standout. It ends. I don't know. Maybe this is just me, but it felt like it ended far too soon. Like it felt like there was not nearly enough of it to
I guess so. I don't know. I didn't think it was that short, but like I thought it was perfectly well paced in terms of like it was a short part of the game, but I still thought it was pretty decent. Maybe they could have done a little more.
It's great. I mean, I guess it's better that if it's shorter than if it just overstays its welcome and it stops feeling, scary, and it loses its intrigue,
Yeah.
Yeah, but that one also highlights, like, because I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I found there were a lot of things just from what I saw that, were highlighted in the house as well as just the rest of the game, where it's like there's a lot of contextual, like, sort of like, well, you can move a bookshelf to block this doorway, or you can hide under this bed while this abomination goes by. There's a lot of stuff like that I think's where which sort of aids into the gameplay, which I found thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Lots of things to squeeze under and be nervous if something grabs your leg, I don't know. I mean, I just personally really like the contrast between, all these houses, in the village that are basically feel like just shacks, there's like barbed wire and everything. And then you get into the mansion and, sort of like Lady Dimitrescu's, like her outfit, like the rest of the house also feels like an early 20th century, like, upper class, first class society sort of thing, with all the woodwork and the intricate carving and, and all definitely. The pots that you smash like Link.
Oh yeah.
They have stuff in them.
For sure. Yeah, it's just...
Speaking of... Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of which, puzzles.
Oh, yeah.
The puzzles, though.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of puzzles. They were a nice surprise. I feel like they weren't as, like... they don't really make you think all that much in this game, because they're just kind of there to kind of, keep things interesting and, help you interact with the environment a little bit in order to really just play into the environmental storytelling and whatnot. Like there was nothing in the game that was super like mind-boggling or like
or esoteric or anything. Which I know that was one of your big things on your video, which if you guys want to see, you should totally go check it out once you're done with this one. It's shameless plug. See what we got right and what we got wrong or whatever with that, where we talk about what we wanted to see in the game. Well, what you specifically wanted to see in the game, because I'm an outsider, but you know what's up with that. But it was one of the things you were very concerned about. Like, it's like, well, or like thinking, well, what if they mess it up? I mean, do you feel like, even though it's more, to put it nicely, streamlined compared to older games in terms of puzzle solving, do you think it still has a lot of the same sort of charm of Resident Evil puzzle solving,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does. It's, classic Resident Evil puzzles, the way they're sort of laid out and the way they're sort of, the way you interact with them and whatnot. It's very classic Resident Evil. Just move one thing to a certain part of the map or the room where you're in, and you unlock this secret passage.
Here's a porcelain eyeball, shove it into the porcelain eye socket, a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in a way, like it's better, like sort of how we were saying, it's better for the horror elements of the house to be short and sweet than to overstay their welcome. And maybe it's a similar sort of thing where even though it's a little, it's not quite as complicated as maybe it could be, maybe that's good because they could have gone the exact opposite direction and gone totally retro, like in terms of 90s puzzle solving where it's just super esoteric and,
Right.
You hit a wall and just like, Jesus Christ, I just want to see the vampire MILF,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. So the merchant's back. I don't know. I didn't have a good transition into that. My God, he is fat.
Oh yeah.
I don't mean to be mean, but Jesus Christ, he is morbidly obese.
Yeah, he's one chunky monkey. He's a big chungus, that's for sure.
Yeah, is he canonically he is not the same guy from Resident Evil 4, is he?
No, he's like an old friend of, well, like the merchant from Resident Evil 4 is an old friend of his, according to that,
I see.
like little Easter egg that he says. But yeah, he just seems like he's its own sort of thing and his own sort of like person. And yeah, I liked him. He was pretty charismatic. He kept things interesting. I don't know. He's like comic relief in the game. Basically, he helps ease the tension.
Yeah, a vaguely friendly face in a very hostile environment.
Oh yeah,
for sure. I say vaguely because I mean, like at the same time, like he ends up, early on in the game, he ends up in the mansion. And he's got his own little shop set up, and you gotta wonder. It's like, well, how is she? Like, if she's just cool with this, and if all the sisters, the triplets, as it were, if they're just cool with him being there, like, is he really on your side?
Oh yeah, it's kind of hinted that he's kind of like there's some ulterior motives that like are never really expressed in the game, but like he's just kind of a neutral party in the entire like plot line in terms of like his place at the castle. He kind of works something out with Lady Dimitrescu to kind of just be there, and he just does business dealings and that keeps it all professional and stuff like that. So yeah, it's
keep it classy in the Ethan murder mansion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean he was fine. I liked his little witty comments every now and then, and it definitely reminded me of the merchant from Resident Evil 4, except I feel this merchant, I kind of like him a little more because he kind of had his own like personality, and it was more fleshed out, and he kind of even like there was something enigmatic about him almost. Just kind of kept things interesting, and yeah.
He wasn't just a caricature of a horny pirate with a bandana around his mouth.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
To put it bluntly.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really discuss because there's just so much to talk about just in terms of like the interactions with gameplay and story and everything. I want to kind of go back to our House of Horrors, the highlight of the game. What you think is the highlight of the game. And this is, again, getting into some super serious spoiler territory. So if you really want to, cover thy ears, because I'm going to start talking about it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So this is like the unofficial spiritual successor to Norman Reedus and the Funky Fetus.
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna say it. Because you were preparing me for it. It's like this is where stuff gets really freaky, and my God, did it.
Oh yeah.
So, for those of you who've played the demo for Silent Hills, aka PT, the playable teaser, or seen footage of it, you know that there is a fetus in the sink, the Funky Fetus, the aforementioned Funky Fetus, and basically this game decides that they're going to hardcore it up a notch or 12. And the fetus it takes up the entire hallway like it's a giant 10-foot long fetus that's just crawling after you. And
yeah, it's a Funky Fetus on steroids, basically.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's very creepy because it seems very happy to see you. You know, it's kind of a Galactus horror where it's like it's not evil. It's just doing what it's naturally like inclined to do from basic instinct.
Yeah, it's
Which
basic
you know,
baby slash child instincts. It just wants to, play around, and it just wants its daddy,
and to gum you to death. Which, if I'm not mistaken, it does. Like if you
Oh
don't
yeah,
move fast away enough, it just gums you to death, which is again unsettling.
yeah,
Um, and because that's the thing. That's why I say like blurring the lines between reality and with the drugs and stuff, and because it's entirely possible just looking at it from the outside, considering all the other weird stuff that happens there with werewolves and weird like dragon monsters and everything. Like, is a giant like 10 times scale fetus that outlandish? Really,
I mean,
I
it's
don't,
not it really isn't that out of place in the Resident Evil universe because
nah.
it's just like any other big monster blob thing that shows up eventually in
I
like
mean,
the
yeah, it's an
previous games.
inevitability.
Yeah,
You're gonna have some fleshy like colonoscopy footage coming after you, and I mean, I don't know, this time at least. I mean, did it have skin? It felt like it didn't have skin, which adds to the creep factor.
no, I don't think so.
I don't remember. I don't think it does now, which makes it extra like the PT fetus, you
Oh
know.
yeah,
Except a little more enthusiastic for going after you.
oh yeah,
Which, yeah, and that's part of it because a lot of it's like hiding from it. It's sort of,
oh yeah.
I don't know. I know I mentioned this while we were playing it, but I got sort of weird alien isolation, sort of like a slow motion alien isolation where you like when it spots you, like you're not up a creek, so to speak, but you really have to get going and hide in
Oh
places
yeah.
and hope that it just passes by without seeing you.
Oh yeah.
Um,
The thing I like was that when you first like just see it, it freaks you out so much. It like just brings about just sheer terror, and it just kind of paralyzes you. All you can think about really is just running, and because you don't have any weapons either, you can just like there's nothing you can really do except just run.
just run and hope to find an exit out. Yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing, honestly, because it just I don't think a Resident Evil game has done horror like this before, where it's just sheer horror where you're just powerless. Yeah, because like every
Yeah.
other game, you if you have the right weaponry, like the whatever monster or whatever thing's coming after you, can basically you can take it down.
Yeah, it's like Barry Burton has his hand cannon, or Leon. He's got his kicking skills, and Chris Redfield has his boulder punching, but you don't have any of that.
Yeah,
You're just sort of. And what's really scary is because that's where I sort of mentioned about the labyrinthian nature of the house. It's like it's very easy to just get stuck in a place, and it's like, well, just almost have to wait for it to slowly just get at you.
oh yeah,
Which you really have to keep an eye on, because even though it's slow, it's like it takes up the entire hallway, and there's only a couple of ways you can go, and you better hope that you're going the right way.
yeah, pretty much.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I thought it was an excellent part of the
Yeah.
game. Honestly, it brought about a new level of horror that to the Resident Evil franchise that we've never seen before, and I think it didn't feel out of place at all. I thought it was just really good because I don't know. I'd like to think that maybe what we're seeing was Donna Beneviento's like child that she probably lost. Because like remember how we came up against the grave of some 9-year-old kid
Yeah.
that died, like that was part of the Beneviento family. I'm pretty sure that was it or some.
Because I was thinking it was like like a sort of a visual metaphor for Rose, is what I was thinking.
Oh, you're right, maybe.
Like almost sort of Silent Hill, even sort of in terms, because we're talking PT. That's a very Silent Hill, getting haunted by the monstrous like visual like personification of your guilt. Instead of like pulling the plug on a loved one on life support, it's like, well, I didn't stop them from taking, my daughter Rose. I didn't stop Chris. Like, why didn't I do more? And now, that feeling is haunting him. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, maybe it was just a manifestation of his subconscious guilt and, just Donna Beneviento just bringing it out, using her supernatural powers to just like have an effect on your psyche and just kind of turn it against you.
Yeah.
Just really tapping into your greatest fears and
Yeah.
your like struggles and stuff, because there was a lot of sound bits of like Mia on the radio, and that was the radio too was also like super PT like.
The radio was was kind of interesting. It's like, because Mia's also talking in there, and there's like a mannequin that's supposed to be Mia just sitting there with like, and you end up taking it apart. I was half thinking that by the end of it, when the lights came back on, it would be her corpse there, and you would discover that you had actually been just taking apart her real body or something. I was half expecting that to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Just to add to
who knows?
it.
They probably, who knows? Maybe that would have, that might have been in the adults only part of a version of the game, or the NC-17 cut or something.
It's part of the sexy version where Lady Dimitrescu walks around in lingerie the whole time and farts on the player character. If they do a good job in a level or something. I don't know. What is it that people want out of her now? Like, Lady D, like it's like it's a femdom thing. Like, she's got a strap on, or she steps on you with her stilettos, or like, what is it that the weirdos on the internet want out of her now? I don't know.
They're just projecting their fetishes onto her, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot to project on, because she's literally 10 feet tall. On that subject, you were talking to me about how it's like she's not in it nearly as much as a lot of people might want her to be.
I mean, yeah, she's just kind of the stalker character, much like Mr. Hoverhand's X, and Nemesis and Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake, respectively. And yeah, so she just kind of sticks to her domicile and at the castle and just kind of chases you around there. But I don't know, she's kind of easy to outrun, to be honest. And I feel like they could have done more to really spice things up in terms of, the way she interacts with you within the castle area. Yeah. And it's kind of like almost, she doesn't really start chasing around until like the second half of that area.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe they could have done a little more to flesh her out and just kind of provide some more memorable moments. I mean, there were some pretty memorable moments with her, but it would have been nice to kind of expand that a little more, or maybe, well, you know how the boss fight goes. It's like she turns into this huge.
Well, she expands a lot in that one.
Yeah.
She turns into Quaalag, basically. Spoilers.
Yep.
She turns into a flying version of Quaalag, where she's this weird spider dragon thing, and it's horrifying.
It's just some weird, like, what's it called? Weird, like Cthulhu like creature or something.
Yeah, and it's very, that's why I was thinking like very Bloodborne-y. Well, yeah, and yeah, very Lovecraft minus the racism.
Oh yeah.
But minus the racism, it's yeah, and considering a video game contemporary, like I was saying the whole time, it's like this is so Bloodborne, because all the Gothic architecture and the cold temperatures and everything, and I mean it was freaky for sure. I mean,
oh yeah.
I don't know. It's like the insinuation being that it sprouted out of her crotch, basically.
Oh god.
Basically, you've got her monstrous genitalia attacking you, and it's like, well, somebody on Resident Evil's design team has problems with women. That's all I gotta say.
Oh god. Oh Japan.
Yeah. Half surprised they didn't like pixelate half the monster with that in mind, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
I guess if you're more scared than turned on, they figure like that they don't need to censor it. I don't
know. They probably did something to
how it works.
Japanese version of the game with that regard, but
Yeah, it's got a couple of black bars that like dance around in front of it when it comes on screen.
jeez. Wow.
Or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she's got a great intro. I will say that much. Like her, it's like, but then again, we also saw it like, oh my, Ethan Winters. At the very beginning of the game, we or at the very beginning of different E3 and Capcom like directs and stuff. Like their different little showcases and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. I mean, in a way, like again, like better short and sweet than like it overstaying its welcome. But I feel like they could have had a little bit more. And all of her daughters, the twins, I call them, with their who really need to learn how to use a napkin. Each of them, like they're just like covered in nonsense and blood and just like it's like where's the class? It's like they're living in a castle for God's sake. They need to learn some manners. But I don't know. We should have had more of them.
Nah, they were kind of annoying, honestly. I kind of hated them as like mini bosses.
Oh, did you? All right.
Yeah, they were just kind of. I'm glad when I like just took them out because they were just really annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. They could have probably done better to like kind of spice things up with them a little bit. Maybe just, because like their weakness obviously is a light somehow. So I don't know if they made it so that you had to like use some sort of special item just to kill them or something, or I don't know.
Yeah. So they are vampires then. They're weak to the light.
I don't know. It's like some weird light sensitivity because of because like there's been enemies in the past that have that as well. Like the Las Plagas in Resident Evil 4 were sensitive to light as well, but like blinding light. So
I see. They're all vampires too. I don't know.
No, I don't know. It's some weird thing. I guess light is. Well, I don't know. It's just a weakness the enemies have had in the past.
They're weak to ray tracing. That's what
pretty
it is. Much. They're weak to that thing that hobbles so many games nowadays.
Oh yeah.
That requirement that every AAA game has to have.
Yeah.
Playtime though, like how long is it? Would you say, like start to finish? Like, assuming that you're going out of your way and like having like an average playthrough sort of thing.
Well, my total playthrough for the game was like 11 hours and a half, but I could have sworn it was a lot more because I kept backtracking and like I had to repeat some areas because I kept dying and stuff like that. So if you're playing on hardcore difficulty as your first playthrough, it's going to take a while. It's going to take, I would say, at least 15 to 18 hours. Yeah, and especially if you're a completionist. It just really depends on the way you play the game. Since I'm a completionist, I kind of just, took my time and really took in the environment and tried to locate all the secrets in the game in the different areas, and just to make sure I got all the treasures and didn't miss anything. So that for me, that like took me a while to get through because of that, and I was able to enjoy a lot more because of that as well. So
yeah, I hear there was a lot of Easter eggs, sort of. Well, I say a lot. I heard there were a few different Easter eggs, including one for Hot Fuzz.
Wait, what?
That British comedy about cops.
Wait, what? Really?
Did you? Yeah, apparently, I don't know. I've just heard through the grapevine that there's like a Hot Fuzz reference in it somewhere. So I was going to ask if you saw anything like that.
No,
but apparently not.
Nothing comes to mind with that. Yeah, I don't even know how that even came about, but yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to check it. It's one of those Instagram real fact pages that they've never been wrong before or said clickbait nonsense. No,
yeah.
I don't know. So we've covered So we've covered two out of 4. Like we've covered giant mommy vampire and porcelain doll, the ghost of Jet Dunham.
Oh yeah,
I like to call her. So and there's two other big sort of enemies we faced before Mother Miranda, if I'm not mistaken, right? There's Rob Zombie and there's another one.
Yeah, Moreau, the hunchback sort of character that I don't know, it was kind of a sad boss character, honestly, because I kind of felt like he was a kind of more of the victim as opposed to a malicious, like malevolent agent in the whole thing. Because
kind of a Birkin or a Nemesis sort of thing, where it's like, oh, there's like a human behind this.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I kind of
No, I get that.
the section with him was kind of like, it was kind of annoying. I didn't really like his section because it was just kind of really gimmicky in terms of, oh, you have to maneuver through this weird bog, like swamp area with like this, like you just have to maneuver this maze of like, windmills inside of this like kind of dam reservoir and stuff. And yeah, it reminded me of Resident Evil 4 a lot, of like that sort of area with when you fight like the lake monster thing.
Oh, when you're in the boat,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. No, I get that. I just find it funny you say it's like, oh, it was so tragic. It's kind of annoying, actually.
Yeah, I mean the character itself was tragic in that, I don't know, when you look into the lore, he I don't know, it kind of felt like he was one of Mother Miranda's earliest experiments with, using it's the big spoiler plot element here, but the Kadu, or that weird fetus thing that we keep seeing like imagery of all around the village. That thing basically is the source of all of these abominations, where it's kind of like it's called the mycene or something like that, which is this like weird mold organism that kind of like transforms you into this like puppet of whoever has the so-called megamycene or whatever that is. And I don't know, it's kind of convoluted, honestly.
I mean, yeah, well, I mean, but then again, a lot of stuff in Resident Evil lore gets kind of... There's a lot of spaghetti plot lines that sort of interlock and, twist into each other. With that in mind, does the mold have anything to do with the T-virus or Umbrella? Because that was a big thing that we were just like, well, I mean, we've seen the logo sort of like in different like pieces of insignia and the mansion and stuff, and there's subtle hints that maybe they're back, I mean, with Chris Redfield here and everything, like... Maybe Umbrella's got something to do with it, since he's involved. Or...
So I'll preface this with a huge spoiler warning, but do you just want to know, like, what the connection is?
Hit me with it.
All right. So it's kind of not really that big of a connection to Umbrella, because it's not like Umbrella came about from this village. It's more like the imagery that's used in this village served as an inspiration for the Umbrella logo, and the founder of the original Umbrella Corporation, Oswald E. Spencer, was actually one of the students of Mother Miranda.
So there is some origin, kind of a Darth Plagueis the Wise Palpatine situation, so to speak.
Yeah.
I got that.
So I'm going to get into some huge...
He even sounds like Palpatine a little bit, Spencer, doesn't he? The Whiskey Children.
Yeah, kind of.
Or am I mixing him up
pretty
with somebody?
much, yeah. He's just a weird eugenics maniac. So basically what happened was Mother Miranda was... she was around... She was around since like the early 20th century, and her daughter died from the Spanish flu or something like that. And so she made it her life's goal to like bring her back somehow. And what happened was, when she was mourning her, like while she was living in this village, she came across this thing called the mutamycene, or I'm not even pronouncing it correctly, but it's this weird mold like organism thing that basically like gave her like immortality in a way. Yeah, so it's kind of like a thing that I'm still trying to process like how convoluted it is, but like it's basically this thing that has like that connects everyone by in a subconscious way if they're all infected by it. So this mold basically creates a hive mind where it's like everyone can be basically controlled by whoever has the megamycene or whatever it's called. And so Mother Miranda has it, and she's been able to like control the entire like village population with it, and then create all these different monsters and have them under control because of that. And so ever since then, she's kind of been trying to like plan like world domination because of that, and just trying to find a way to bring her daughter back using it as well. And so that's why she kidnapped Rose, was because she was trying to find a suitable vessel to bring back her daughter.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So basically, so that means that Lady Dimitrescu, Heisenberg, no relation to Breaking Bad, or the actual scientist with the name Heisenberg, but that all those, they're also sort of victims in a sense too, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
be?
they're all victims.
Or are they like?
Yeah. And actually,
they're all down with the fungus.
pretty much. And it's actually Heisenberg that's like the most rebellious, and he was planning to take down Mother Miranda from the get-go, and he actually offers Ethan the chance to join him in order to like fight back against Mother Miranda. But the problem was that Heisenberg wanted to use his daughter Rose to like get stronger, to have like the power to take her down. And Ethan was like screw that. And then because of that, of course, there was obviously he didn't go through with it, so he just kind of obviously what's his face, Ethan had to stop him either way. So
yeah, boss fight ensues, and I'm sure.
Oh my god. And Heisenberg's boss fight was ridiculous, because I didn't show you this, but when you get past the section with the factory, which by the way is really cool, because he has like this factory where he's making like these Frankenstein monster like enemies that are all outfitted with like these drill for hands and stuff like that. Yeah, so basically like the only way to kill them is to like hit their weak spot, which is on their chest. Yeah, so it's kind of like a crazy it's like this game just throws in all the monster monster movie horror tropes. Like we've got Dracula with Lady Dimitrescu. We've got the Loch Ness monster, or the whatever the
yeah, it's a little bit Nosferatu. Yeah, it's a little bit found footage. It's a little bit Saw. Like there's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, the creature from the deep or whatever with Moreau, and then we have freaking Frankenstein with Heisenberg, basically.
Yeah. Is there any? There is some body horror too that should be mentioned, because Ethan. It starts out with him losing fingers and stuff, but then he ends up, doesn't Lady D chop off his arm at one point?
Oh yeah, he does. He has his arm chopped off, and somehow he was able to still use it, like reattach it.
Well, like graft it back on, basically.
Yeah, and then they found a way to like provide a reason for it, for why that was the case, which I'll get into later on. But yeah, just to get back to Heisenberg, his boss fight is ridiculous, because you basically pilot like a little mini tank with like a light machine gun and a cannon that shoots out like these big ass like tank bullets to like take him down, because he's just basically like this huge like blob. Well, not like, it's like metal bioweapon that kind of like manipulates metal and magnetic fields to like really just, I don't know, it was crazy. It reminds me of stuff we've seen in the past with Resident Evil, like Resident Evil 6 mostly. Yeah, I kind of feel like they took a page out of that, and the boss fight is really bombastic and really like out of nowhere. It kind of felt like, it was just crazy. You'd have to see it, but
I mean, when you say Resident Evil 6, like a lot of people who saw Resident Evil 6 as like the low point might get concerned here and that, though.
It was just like kind of ridiculously bombastic. The boss fight with Heisenberg, like it's still cool, but it's just kind of like, man, like it feels kind of out of place. Not gonna lie.
Kind of Call of Duty, I think you were saying earlier.
Well, no, that's when we get to Chris's section.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because you do play as Chris for a little bit, because Ethan gets like knocked out for a little bit after the Heisenberg boss fight. Yeah, so after that, you play as Chris, and he kind of infiltrates the village to, to take down the mega mycene or whatever the big ass like fungus mold thing that's controlling everything. And
you get to see his whole morning routine where he takes his protein powder and his human growth hormone. And,
oh yeah, he has a nice.
He lifts boulders.
Pretty much, yeah. It's pretty cool. Like it's definitely like I can tell that it was inspired by Call of Duty's like Modern Warfare's like campaign with where they go into like do the house raids in London and stuff. That's kind of like that where you kind of just go in and you're just going guns blazing with this big ass assault rifle and high tech handgun and stuff, and you're just like taking down hordes of lichens like nothing because you're packing all this firepower, and the game just throws a bunch of grenades at you so that you can just take them all out. So I don't know, in a way it was kind of a good catharsis for just like kind of being able to finally fight back with the proper firepower, whereas when you're playing as Ethan, obviously you're kind of underpowered because you kind of have to deal with all these like physical limitations because of all the shit your body goes through, and like the weapons aren't.
You got 3 bullets.
Powerful.
Yeah.
So and then you get to play as this OPA like character, this OPOG character, Chris, and it's just it's kind of it's like it feels a little bit out of place, but it's still pretty badass though. Like I feel like it's not too bad in terms of it's just kind of a good way to a good segue into the final area basically.
Yeah. Like it's a little snippet of more sort of the Resident Evil 6y / Call of Duty sort of stuff without it being overpowering.
Oh yeah.
I guess would be the way of putting
Definitely.
it.
Yeah. I feel like they actually were able to pull it off pretty well in this time around. Yeah. So it was nice. I liked it. And after that, that was just a short section where you play as Chris, and then after that you regain your consciousness as Ethan, and then Duke kind of rescues you, and you're basically ushered into the main final area where you have to fight Mother Miranda for the last time.
Yeah. So, and I'm guessing this is the culminating sort of moment, I guess. Well, before we get to that, I am curious, how does Duke save you? Like, how does that work? Does he roll over with his cart of goods and spices and stuff, or
his car, he has like his wagon basically is like he just takes you into his little wagon thing and rides off basically into the main area.
Because I would figure mobility would be an issue for him to get out there to save you. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's something supernatural about the Duke, or I don't know. I think he might be a bioweapon himself, and he's just kind of maybe I don't know. He's just like a helpful agent in this case. He just kind of does his own thing.
I mean, it would make sense because he's kind of, in terms of size, he's sort of on the same physical scale as like a Lady Dimitrescu or any of these other big characters. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we finally meet the Mother Miranda that everybody is speaking of and worshiping, and and this is we've got all the bits of Rose in a jar basically at this, or how is that culminated? Because I know that was a big thing, that Rose is like in separate jars, like parts of her.
Yeah.
For a large part of it, she's
you know how Mia got infected by the mold, right? In Resident Evil 7.
I do know
that's why she went all crazy and stuff. And then
and that's why she's kind of an a-hole to you in the kitchen that whole time. It's like, I'm the only cook in here. No,
about that. Anyway. You're not gonna believe this, but that wasn't actually Mia. In the beginning.
Oh, it wasn't. Yeah. Who was it?
Just guess.
I'm guessing Mother Miranda or something, I would assume. Yeah. That makes sense.
So yeah, she basically can transform into anyone. And so like the whole time she was like, she didn't kill the real Mia, but she like kidnapped her and took her to the village for experimentation, and then just kept her in a cell down in the catacombs of the village, and until Chris rescues her. And then So basically, the whole time, the whole Chris was evil was kind of like a red
Kind of
herring.
bait and switch.
Yeah, just a bait and switch. He wasn't actually evil. He was just actually helping you the entire time.
Yeah. Why didn't he say anything though in the beginning? He's, it's just got to be grizzled. It's like you wouldn't understand, Ethan. Ugh.
Yeah, that's basically the whole reason why.
I've got big biceps.
Yeah. He was just being stubborn, and like even in the game he admits it that he should have told Ethan the plan. That like, this isn't actually your wife that died, or I didn't kill your wife. It's the villain was behind all of this and stuff.
Yeah. So culminating moment. How does it all end? So, body parts of Rose and
yeah. So it turns out Rose is like some crazy like even more powerful than Mother Miranda, because basically they were able to like crystallize her and like break her apart into different pieces. But because she was a product of Mia and Ethan, and it turns out Ethan was infected and became a mold monster himself. And so combining the DNA of both, Mia and Ethan, of course you're gonna get a super overpowered like mold being.
I mean, that's just basic biology.
Yeah. So you're gonna get Rose, who is like basically like a god at this point in terms of power level, and she doesn't even know it. And so what happens is like when Mother Miranda tries to do the final ceremony to bring back her daughter, it completely fails because Rosemary like basically comes back like from being like disintegrated before and just completely back intact. And it turns out that she takes Mother Miranda's power.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even as a child, like as a fucking infant. And because of that, it overpowers Mother Miranda, or it takes away kind of her power, so that Ethan is able to then just like defeat her after a final boss fight with her.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
And Rose, Mia, what happens? Because you were saying that she's sort of held.
Oh yeah,
in captivity.
Yeah, she gets rescued by Chris, and then she escapes with Chris and Rose, and then after the final boss fight, it turns out that since they destroyed Mother Miranda, she had kind of a she kind of was controlling like a lot of the mold bioweapons for a while. And because she was gone, basically, that means that since Ethan was a mold creature, or a mold person himself, he actually started to disintegrate right after the boss fight.
Oh, jeez. Oh, so he ends up dying at the end of it.
Yeah, he sacrifices himself to save Ethan and Rose, and basically they leave without him. But it was because of his own choice. He forced Chris to like leave without him, basically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. I mean, I know Ethan was, didn't have much personality as far as a character. It's just like, it's like, because I remember seeing at the very beginning of the game, he's like, oh, this is our photo album. I'm saying this to myself for some reason. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But that's kind of crazy. They just, wow. So his storyline's just finito. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought his character arc was pretty badass. Not gonna lie, he actually became like pretty much a badass at the end, because, I mean, he recognized his fate and he just wanted to literally go out with a bang, because he ends up blowing up the mega mycene, or whatever the big ass mold fetus thing is, and that ends up destroying the village and stuff. And
I see.
Yeah, so it was a
that
bittersweet ending, but there is a post-credit scene that happens though, where
Marvel has come in, infected Capcom. There's a post-credit scene.
Yeah, and it's actually setting up for the new game, I think, for the next game in the series.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's going to be Revelations 3 or Resident Evil 9, but it turns out that Chris, who was working for like the BSAA, which is like this anti-bioweapon organization that like is tasked to like they're against bioterrorism. So they're kind of like the NATO of bioterror, basically, just to get rid of bioterrorist threats and stuff. It turns out they've become the actual evil corporation now, as opposed to Umbrella, which Chris actually works for now, but they're Blue Umbrella, and so
they're Blue
it turns
Umbrella.
out the new Umbrella now is the good guy, and the BSAA, which he helped like found at first, was Jill Valentine, is now the bad guy somehow.
Oh wow. Okay, so but that makes me wonder, are they going to do the same thing here where it's like Redfield's the bad guy to start with? You know, but he's secretly not, like, you know.
No, I think he'll never be the bad guy, but
they're going to make Jill Valentine? Like, that's the thing that I find hard to believe.
Well, she was kind of evil, like in Resident Evil 5, but because she was being controlled by Wesker for a little bit, but she got turned back. Yeah. I think what's going to happen, though, is they're probably setting up for Revelations 3, to be honest. Yeah, where they're just going to have that same sort of setup where they find out that, you know, this organization that was supposed to be the good guy is actually bad. Kind of like how it was with Revelations 1 and 2. So I think, the next game we're going to have Chris maybe be the main character, and then maybe some other returning characters from the other games are going to be in this as well.
Getting back in the saddle again, it sounds like.
Yeah.
In terms of the Resident Evil storyline, because the past two games have sort of stepped a little bit away from, you know, a lot of the main storyline, and, you know, T-Virus this and, you know, Barry Burton that, and, you know, they've just sort of stepped a little bit away, at least in terms of the new ones instead of the remakes. But it seems like they're gonna go back into it. I got mixed feelings about it, because I know a lot of people are wondering, it's like, well, is this going to be the sort of thing where it's going to become, there's going to be a Resident Evil 6 situation again, where it's just like so over the top and everything, you know, everybody and their mother's in it, you know, and I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know. I don't mean to be doom and gloom about this, you know, even though this game just came out and it's probably going to be years before the next one, but I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I think it should be fine if it's just Revelations, because Revelations was kind of action oriented from the start. It was kind of like a side project for Capcom, for the Resident Evil franchise, kind of like a spin-off almost.
Yeah.
Where it's not really like part of the main line. It is still canonical, but it's just kind of like side stories for the different characters in the series, honestly. Like the first game was kind of like a side story for Jill Valentine, and then the second game, Revelations 2, was kind of a side story for Claire Redfield and Barry Burton and stuff. So I think so
it's just filling in blanks.
Yeah, so I feel like with Revelations 3, we're finally going to be able to actually play as Chris for like the longest time now. So you'll be playing as Chris again, maybe as some other previous characters. Who knows? Maybe Leon again. Who knows?
Maybe he'll be punching timber this time instead of boulders. Oh, yeah. Character development.
Oh, yeah. Pretty much.
Anywho, but I mean, overall though, as far as a hotly anticipated, you know, Resident Evil franchise with some vampiric waifu bait in it.
Oh yeah.
How would you say it fared?
You want me to do my final verdict on the game?
Final verdict ratings: 10 out of 10, 0 out of 10,
I would say
pi out of 10.
8.5. It's a solid 8.5.
A solid 8.5.
8 to 8.5. Like
okay. Oh.
Yeah, I mean,
some caveats in there, I'm assuming.
I mean, I guess the only caveat is that certain parts of the game just felt like a little too like slow, or not slow, but like it's, I don't know, I guess, like, I mean, the part with Moreau was kind of meh, and then I mean, a lot of highs and then a lot of like kind of meh parts as well. But otherwise, I mean, I still liked it a lot. It was just a good fusion of what was found in Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 4, and it's just kind of a hybrid of. It just really took everything, every good aspect of every single game, and kind of just combined it into one. And like, yeah, because of that, it just kind of felt like there was something for everyone. Honestly,
would you say it was butter spread over a piece of bread that was a bit too big, maybe? Like, in terms of stuff not, in terms of gaps between the good bits. Like, there's, it's a little bit.
I guess the little things that were bad were just not too bad, but like, I don't know. I thought it was a good experience overall. Like, I had a lot of fun with it, and I guess maybe what felt to me anticlimactic was some of the boss fights, and even the last final boss fight, and just like the whole villain arc for Mother Miranda was kind of weak, honestly. I feel like she wasn't really a compelling villain.
Yeah. I can understand that. I mean, she is kind of on the back burner for a lot of it, it seems like.
Yeah.
For the game. I don't think I even see her until, like, I even saw her for most of the gameplay that we were doing.
Yeah, she wasn't even really there for most of the game, which is kind of like a really hidden opportunity, or a really missed opportunity.
Yeah, I don't... Kind of Far Cry 3 in a sense, where it's like the main villain is really in the background, and you spend most of your time with the side one, who's almost treated as the main villain, Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, so...
Well, I mean, at the very least, I'm glad to hear you liked it. And are you, considering how you felt about this one, are you excited for whatever's coming next, whether it be Revelations 3 or 9 or,
yeah.
Code Veronica 2? No, I'm kidding.
Dude, they need to remake Code Veronica. I think that one really does need the remake. More than
considering
Resident Evil.
that they're on sort of a remake path, like, I wouldn't be shocked if they redid that one, or Dead Aim, or any of these other ones. Like, because wasn't Dead Aim the one where they started doing the third-person shooting as it's now done?
Oh, yeah.
Or am I mixing that?
I mean, Dead Aim was kind of
maybe that one's up for one.
Yeah, like the early experiment with fusion of third-person and first-person, but...
Yeah. I'm just going to say it. They need to remake 4. Like, I know that's the one they got to remake. That's all they got left to.
They're going to make bank if they do. And if it's pulled off well, that's going to make the money no matter what. But I feel like
they're almost never going to. It's going to be their Grand Theft Auto 5. They'll never have to make another game again. Maybe they shouldn't make it then, because then we might not get another Resident Evil for a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, well, in any case, my God, that vampire lady was thick.
Oh, yeah.
So that was Resident Evil Village. Anyway, without it, I don't think I have anything else to say on that. I mean, I think we basically covered it. That was Resident Evil Village, a fine entry in an eclectic and iconic series, no doubt. Hopefully, it represents the beginning of, the shape of things to come.
I mean,
this has been.
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to chime in and do a last comment here.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just a nice surprise. It was a breath of fresh air, honestly, for the series in a way, because I don't know, I kind of felt with like the remakes, it was kind of getting a little too like predictable with what they were doing. So I'm glad they switched things up here with the new title. And I don't know, I think it was a good follow up to Resident Evil 7. So, I am kind of glad, that Ethan's story is ending in a way, because I don't know if I could have handled to see a third game with him, honestly, because he's still not as compelling of this character as the other characters in the series.
He's kind of Joe Everyman, isn't he? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. To be honest, like all the other characters, like Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, and Claire and Leon, they're also iconic. That they like we just kind of need to see them again to a certain extent. And I don't know, maybe we need to bring more of the classic, like other characters that have kind of fallen to the sideline, like Rebecca Chambers, like she was in Resident Evil 0, and who else?
Another one that would be good to remake.
Yeah. Oh, they should. I feel like 0 would be a really good one to remake.
Honestly, that's Capcom. Like that's almost all they need to keep doing is just making remakes and occasionally coming out with like a 9 and a 10.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's almost yeah.
they've got it.
Oh,
They've
well.
got it all figured out. Probably. They've
Yeah.
got the next 10
Can't
years
wait for,
planned for Resident Evil.
Yeah, can't wait for all the spin-offs. Resident Evil and the Ballad of Gay Tony. I'm looking forward to that one.
That's great.
Anyway, so this has been us discussing Resident Evil Village. This has been Dank Swank with Mr. G and Mr. J. If you liked this and would you like to see more content similar to this one, make sure to check out the rest of the videos on our channel. Like this video, subscribe, ring the bell so you're notified when we upload new content. Otherwise, at some point, we're working on it. We've been having issues with the Patreon. It's been up and down, but we're going to try to have that up too. And once that's up, if you could, donating money to us would not only help us to get more content like this out and higher quality content, but it'll also ensure that we can get you some special little goodies, certain little 4K screenshots and like special video clips and commentary, early access to stuff, a whole bunch of stuff we're working on. So stay tuned for that. But otherwise, yeah, thank you for joining us on the classiest cavern on the World Wide Web. We'll see you next time.